Hi guys, Lael here. Just wanted to come talk to you guys today about schizophrenia and maybe if you struggle or someone else you may think struggles with schizophrenia. So the first symptom is social withdrawal. Sometimes it can be hard for people with schizophrenia to make friends and make relationships because sometimes it can be hard to connect and just really have that relationship. And a lot of people with schizophrenia, they like to isolate themselves and they just like to not really be around people. So, and even sometimes it can be hard to socialize because, they don't really show a lot of expression and it can be hard to connect with people on that level. So it can be hard for people with schizophrenia to, make friendships. So that's one sign. Another one is lack of emotion, kind of goes hand in hand because sometimes the people, with schizophrenia, they kind of are stoic. They don't really show a lot of emotion. And it's not that they don't have emotion, but it's just that sometimes it can be hard for them to express themselves and even express themselves in emotion. So like if you're talking to someone with schizophrenia, they may be excited, but sometimes they won't show it on their face because I used to do that. I used to be like, my parents, they'd be like, hey, are you excited? Are you happy about that? And I'd be like, yeah. But I would have like a really like just flat effect on my face and you wouldn't be able to tell. And I would be happy, but you wouldn't really be able to know because, I just looked stoic. Another one is kind of lack of motivation. People with schizophrenia, they want to do things and they want to, they have ambitions, but sometimes it can be hard because they don't always have the motivation maybe that a neurotypical person would have. It's not saying that they can't do stuff and they're not, have goals for themselves, but sometimes it can be a little bit harder because of the lack of motivation. Another one is difficulty in concentrating. Sometimes it can be hard for people to do things because they get off task or they focus on different things. So when it comes to like concentrating, sometimes it can be hard because, they're thinking of a whole lot of stuff to do. And even when you're talking to them, sometimes you can be like, they can get off a little track, so it can be like, oh, well, how do we start talking about this when we were talking about that? And those ones kind of go hand in hand as well. Changes in speech patterns. So when schizophrenics, sometimes they have word salad, and basically that's just when they try to talk, but it's just kind of all over the place and it's hard for people to understand. So when you talk to somebody who has schizophrenia, it can be hard to understand them because they're like they have things going on and they think sometimes they make sense because I used to think that I would talk and people would be like, what are you talking about? So when it comes to schizophrenia, you just kind of have to be calm with the people when you talk about them and just tell them to slow down and just kind of understand because sometimes when you talk to people with schizophrenia, it can be hard to understand what they're saying. It used to be like that for me too, and sometimes it still is. So changes in speech patterns could be another sign, just kind of not understanding what they're trying to say. So here are just a couple of signs, just to look out for if you think you may or someone else may be struggling with schizophrenia. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. So thank you, and I hope you guys have a great day.